I'm pleased to say we're joined by Mark Newbery, also of Herbert Freehills. Julia had another commitment she had to rush to. So we have a great set of brains to pick this morning on some of their thinkings on both the gas markets and indeed the regulatory framework, legal framework around them. I wonder, perhaps I have maybe one here to start off with, and maybe we'll go to the audience to see if there are some questions within the audience. I think, as a quick observation, I will say I noticed that on Stephen Murray's last slide, on his conclusion side, he did say that shale gas was waiting the green light, and I think there's a certain irony in that, not least from some of the conversations I've been involved in recently. So perhaps my questions really, the first one was actually really directed towards Andrew, which is, in his presentations he was talking about the gas price in 2030 being substantially higher still in 2020, but the whole of the energy policy these days is built on the fact that gas price will continue to rise almost incessantly. What actually is driving the gas price in your modelling through to 2030?
In 2030, we're getting gas coming from much further afield than we are at the moment. So there's fewer fields in the North Sea, fewer fields in the Norwegian continental shelf, and in Northwest Europe in general. So we're bringing gas in from further afield, which will be more expensive to bring in, and also it has a link to oil prices in a certain way as well. So it depends also how the oil prices are moving even then. Thanks.
And any predictions from the Herbert Smith and gas price? Other than
no.
What was up? Yeah. Which clearly is wrong.
That's all we do.
I must admit, we do see it going down a little bit before it goes up.
Well, it's quite interesting, again, looking in, I don't think there's anyone from Treasury here this morning, but looking in the autumn statement book, between now and 2020, they show a nominal fall in gas price even.
Yeah.
Never mind real terms fall, they actually show a nominal fall in gas price. Okay. So it's nice to see a consistent policy between Treasury and DEC when it comes to future gas price and its impact on our investments. The next question I'd been given was actually around, was two parts to it. One was actually based on Herbert Smith's experience with our clients already. Will gas strategy and EMR deliver the required certainty from their perspective? And the other one is, what if we can't afford it? Is there any risk that these contracts will not be honoured in their doing?
I think the questions are linked, frankly, because if there is any risk that the contracts won't be honoured, then the investment won't come. I think the answer is that we're moving in the right direction. I would say, in relation to the gas generation strategy, there is nothing new in that document. It is all, I guess, DEC believe in recycling, and that's what it is. But if you look at the progress that has been made, for example, in the last year on EMR and some of the more novel aspects of that policy have been done away with, and we've at least got straightforward bilateral contracts as now being what's going to happen. I think on the capacity market, we're again about a year behind having something which really is investable. There are a lot of details in the mechanics and the design which need to be worked through, but I don't see why they shouldn't, and I think the gas industry needs to come together to make points collectively to DEC about what's wrong with their current proposals and what would work better. I think DEC will listen, and I think therefore you will get something which is investable.
Do you sense there was a lack of coherence from the industry responding back to government on this? Clearly, the one or two companies with some pretty strong ideas, but is there a coherence back to government on some of these pretty fundamental points?
I think there needs to be coordination because, government does listen, and that's good and bad. It means that it listens to everybody. It counts evidence rather than weighs it, I think, so that if you have 10 different voices saying 10 different things, they'd say, oh, well, there's a widespread view on that, even if 9 of them are mainstream industry making sensible proposals and one is a bit out of left field. So I think that a coordinated response will get a much better result than separate responses.
Is there anything?
No, obviously there are organisations like Oil and Gas UK, Gas Forum, Gas Storage Operators Group, who are bringing together a lot of the parties in the industry and presenting a more coordinated group. But I presume even within your organisation you find that there's a disparate number of views that how you should proceed in it, whether to be softly or whether to be more bullish. So there is a certain amount of that, and the more that the organisations can help bring together those coordinated views, I think that would be the way forward.
I think it's crucial, not least. In one sense, you are going to be really sort of careful about this. Our remit almost stops at the shore, but this is so entangled with our own industry and our many of the companies involved in our industry. We have to see where we're going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult here because with electricity market reform and the contracts for differences, you're really only dealing with the electricity industry. When you're dealing with something like the capacity market, the capacity structure, it's up the whole chain. So one of the issues that you mentioned was, what do we do about daily settlement? Because daily products clearly don't work where you're trying to respond to minute by minute changes in the electricity market. So there's that dimension. So there's from downstream all the way through to the supply of gas, and obviously storage and line packing, all those issues, and then across into the electricity industry. And the electricity industry is somebody who's going to go out there and build the plant, somebody who's going to give a tolling agreement on that plant, and banks. I'm not sure banks provide finance these days, but banks providing finance for the new generation. So there are very many more parties that have to come together and whose views have to be put, I think, on capacity than even there are on EMR. So I think it's a very tall order.
Thanks. Is anything else?
No, I think that summarises it.
Yeah, I guess the question is whether the gas industry has been holding back somewhat because they see the utility industry as being in the front line in relation to EMR, and so have seen as somebody else's fight first and foremost. But I think the point that Mark's making, I think that Andrew's making, is that these proposals will have a profound impact on the gas industry, and so the gas industry should be taking a keen interest in ensuring that it's at the table discussing these policies with government.
I think there was one question I also had off of that, where it was mentioned by Herbert Smith that ministers will decide. And given the experience of the Department of Transport and the frailties of these decisions, do you think ministers are capable and being advised sufficiently to make those decisions?
I think it's a very interesting point. That I mean, it's interesting to look and see how far we've come from late 80s of total deregulation of markets to now a position where governments say they still believe in markets, but at the same time they want to control and direct them. What they say on capacity is that the decisions will be informed by views on capacity margins. So they're going to get someone to do some research into likelihood of lost load. Those of you who are old enough to remember the pool will remember that in fact the pool had a capacity element which was based on loss of load probability. So someone's going to do that, and that is going to inform their decisions. It's not going to be their decision, it's going to inform it. It also says that decisions are going to be taken by ministers, so therefore that must be, I assume, DEC plus Treasury. And I guess they have sort of different interests in it. And the question is, will they take those decisions really based on what they've been told about future capacity, or will they take it for political reasons and decide politically that they want more gas-fired plant, or they're not going to have sufficient gas-fired plant because they don't think that it's actually going to lead to brownouts or blackouts. And it's turning what should be a sort of industry decision, which is how much capacity do we actually need given forecasts, into a political one, which is how much can we afford, or how much politically do we want.
It's dangerous when ministers start to try and work out what they can afford.
We're in Concord, won't we?
Indeed, yes. But I'd like to thank Andrew Morris, first of all, of Poru, Stephen Murray, Julia Pike, who's had to move on to another meeting, and indeed Mark Newbery, also of Herbert and Freehills, for their time this morning and the sheer professionalism and insight they have into the markets at the minute. But again, thank you very much indeed, and I'd like to thank you for your time.